Hi and welcome everyone. Thank you once again for joining us for another week of Intro to Microsoft Outlook. I'm your instructor, and this week we have Module 8, which is essentially your last module in this class. But not only is it the last module, it's also the last week of class. So this class ends on 7/24, which is next Friday. And so this essentially is your last class. Okay, so congratulations on all the work that you've done in this class. You did a fantastic job. I've been reviewing your assignments, and I really appreciate the dedication and the hard work that you all have done in this class. So this is the last week, and with that, I wanted to just kind of let you know if you haven't completed some of the assignments, this is kind of like the last chance that you have to complete the assignments. So give that a shot. If you haven't completed one or two assignments, go ahead and complete them this week and try to get the highest possible score that you could get on those assignments so that you could pass this course. Okay, so just a couple of notes on this course. I already mentioned that the last day of class is this Friday. So around this Friday, I'll be reviewing all of your work and we'll be giving points for your assignments. And I'm also going to be assigning grades this week. Okay, so let me know if for some reason you have a hard time completing your assignments or if there's any technical issues that is keeping you from completing those assignments. But essentially, you'll be receiving your grade this week, towards the end of this week. And shortly afterwards, I'm going to be sending you certificates for this class. Okay, so uh, I will be sending you that certificate through email. So look out for an email sometime next week. Okay, and it's going to be attached to that email. And go ahead and when you receive that email from me, download your certificate and keep it for your records. Okay, on your transcript with the college, they'll also have a record of your grade, and that's going to be also good as well. But I understand that if you want to get your certificate of completion for executive assistant, they at times may ask you for the certificates from your instructor. Okay, so keep those certificates that I send you next week for your records. If for some reason you lose it or if you don't receive it, you could even contact me and I'll be happy to send it to you or resend it to you. Okay, so and sometimes you'd be surprised. There's been times where I receive emails from students that I've seen 5 years ago, and they need their certificate. And so thankfully, like whenever those situations come up, I look through my computer and I'm able to find that certificate and resend it off to them. Okay, but that with that said, just go ahead and keep your certificate when you do receive it. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at this module that we have for this week. So this week we have a pretty short module because I really want to make sure that you focus on that authentic assessment. Okay, so just a little reminder, it's important for you to complete the authentic assessment. You have to give it a shot, give it a try. It's in two parts. There's a quiz, a multi-choice quiz that you have to work with, and then also there's a reflection as well that you have to complete in the module. Okay, that reflection is all about having just sharing your thoughts on the class and which tools you found the most helpful. Once you do your initial submittal, your initial response, I want you to go back and respond to two other students with a short message, just so that there's a little bit of discussion in that reflection. Okay, so give that a shot. Okay, so now let's take a look at this week's content, which is shortcuts and working with attachments. Um, okay, so just some ideas, some concepts, or some bullet points on shortcuts. Keyboard shortcuts are really there, and they're kind of integrated into Outlook to help you improve productivity and efficiency. Okay, so it helps you kind of reduce time navigating the menus, and they help you manage emails a little bit quicker. Okay, so they're also useful for power users and professionals, which sometimes they may not use their mouse. Okay, so sometimes they don't like to use their mouse. And so these shortcuts help you get around the program by just using keys. So sometimes that's like a faster alternative for people. Okay, so here are some common keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so and I personally, from my personal experience, I've seen that a lot of students have the shortcuts that really matter, or the ones that are more impactful, are the ones that just kind of stick to their head. They stick to their memory, and they're able to use them on a daily basis. Okay, so there might be a handful that you find so helpful. Okay, me personally, and I think from the experiences of other students, these are the most helpful ones in Outlook. Okay, so create, Control N. So you have to look for the Control key and the N key, and then hit them at the same time. Okay, so that's going to help you create a new email, a new item, things like that. Okay, Control R is another shortcut. And so with Control R, you're hitting both keys at the same time, and that's going to create a reply to an email. Okay, and then we also have Control Shift R, reply all. Okay, Control F, forward the email. And then finally, Control Enter, which is send email. So you could see that these are just really helpful shortcuts, and if you just kind of practice them, they'll kind of stick to your mind, and they'll stick to your memory. As you could see, there's a lot of different shortcuts that you could kind of learn and use. This slide right here goes over some of the most common ones that you could use. But if you do Control 1, for example, you could go to your mail portion of Outlook. So that's where you could review your emails. That's like your mail module. Control 2 is go to calendar, and then so on and so forth. Control 3 is contacts, and then Control 4, go to tasks, things like that. So you could use that as you kind of work with things on Outlook. In general, on your computer, there's also other shortcuts like Control Z. That's one of my favorite ones, but that's if you hit Control and Z at the same time, it undoes what you last did on your computer. Okay, so that's kind of like the undo feature. And as you can see right here, if you follow my mouse, it is listed here. Control Z, undo, very helpful. Control X is cut, and Control V is paste. So those are also some of my favorite ones I typically use all the time. Okay, so kind of this week I want you to just take a look at some of these shortcuts and try to memorize a couple. You know, if you need to put them into like a index card so you could study them, I think that might be kind of helpful. Okay, so but definitely some of these are just are really helpful. The ones that are most helpful are the ones that just kind of are the most useful. And typically, I'd like to say that these Control V, X, and Y, and Z, those are helpful. And then you have these here that are also helpful. Control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Then you have these two. Okay, so that's just a brief overview on the shortcuts. Okay, so now let's take a look at working with large file attachments. Okay, so as you know, in this class we learned that you could attach files to your emails, and some of these attachments could be very simple. Oh, excuse me. Sorry for that brief interruption. So as we were talking about, we were talking about large file attachments. So so typically when we work with attachments, when it's one or two files, it's not a big deal. You could attach it to an email rather quickly. But when you're working with large file attachments, it could become a little bit more difficult. So large attachments can cause delivery failures. Typically, email systems often have a limit attachment size. For most that I could kind of think of, it's usually 20 megabytes. Okay, so there might be some that are larger. It depends. but your usual one is going to be 20 megabytes. And then also Outlook provides several methods to handle large files, so that's really important. So understanding these options help you improve communication, and it helps you kind of get your messages across when you're trying to send off attachments. So how to attach a file. This is a bit of a review, but essentially you have to open your email message. You have to click the attach file option. You have to browse to locate the file, and then you have to select the file and insert it into the message as well. Sometimes you could just click and drag the message into your message that you're trying to send off. You could click and drag the attachment that you're to the message that you're trying to send off. So it's very simple. It's been made far more seamless than it was before. But that's essentially the fundamental process of attaching something to an email. So when you're working with large files, you should keep the following in mind. Okay, so Outlook.com, it has a 20 megabyte per attachment per email limit. Microsoft 365 and Exchange accounts commonly have 20 to 25 megabytes. So if you go beyond that, you're going to get a message saying that you can't attach that file to your email. Some organizations increase this to 35 megabytes to 50 megabytes or more. You know, I think I've heard of this happening, but it happens very rarely. And even then, like if you're sending off an email this big, you're probably sending it, and if you send it to a email account that's outside of your company, your organization, it'll probably bounce back. Okay, so this is a rarity. Okay, so most commonly it's going to be this size here, but this is a rarity, 35 megabytes to 50 megabytes. Okay, so what happens when you have large file attachments? So there's slow sending and receiving speeds. Okay, so there's storage limits. So your email account itself has a storage limit. So if you keep on sending out a lot of large emails, that storage limit is going to be reached a little bit faster, and you're going to have to go through and delete some in order to conserve some energy. And then also, if you send off large emails, you can have potential delivery rejection by servers as well. So that essentially means your message is not received because there's like an error. So just to give you a practical idea of what does 20 megabytes look like. Okay, so for a Word document, if you have a Word document that's 2,000 to 4,000 pages of mostly text, that will usually be 20 megabytes. Okay, so just text. Okay, that's a really big Word document. You probably don't come across that on a daily basis, but that's what it really looks like. In terms of PowerPoint presentations, if you have a 20 to 50 slide presentation with images and graphics, that could eat up 20 megabytes right there. So pictures and photos and videos, that type of media really eats up the megabytes really fast. And so you're going to see that that you hardly ever see Word documents like this big, but most likely you'll kind of see photographs that are 5 to 10 high quality smartphone photos. Okay, so like nowadays most people have smartphones, right? So if you try to email 5 to 10 high quality smartphone photos, that's going to eat up 20 megabytes just in itself. Just because our cameras are in the new smartphones are really nice, and they kind of create these really high quality photos that kind of eat up so much memory. In terms of MP3 music files, 4 to 5 songs. Okay, and then videos, 1 to 3 minutes of high definition videos. Then PDF files, 5 to 20 PDFs, depending on the size and images and formatting. Okay, so when you're in the job, just keep that in mind. Most likely when you try to attach something to an email, it's going to throw a message at you saying you've attached too many emails. You have to kind of work with the size of these files and make sure that you try other methods. Okay, so there's there's some methods that you could kind of use, but these are not as effective as they used to be. So Outlook can automatically resize large images. What happens when you resize large images is that you sometimes lose some of the definition and some of the quality in the images. So that could downgrade your images. And so sometimes people don't like that. Reduce file size for easier sending. So that's also an option. Useful when sending photos or graphics. And then also helps staying within email attachment limits. Okay. There's another option called zip file attachments, and so combine multiple files into one compressed folder, reduce overall file size, keep attachments organized, and also when you do this, it's easy for recipients to download and extract. Okay, so when you're zipping files, you might have seen in the past folders that are they have this little zipper, right? So that means that this file is a type of file that's zipped. So if you want to unpack it, you have to unzip it. When you zip a file, it just it compresses the files a little bit more. And so that's a nice way to kind of compress your images when you're sharing it. But essentially, like the amount that it compresses something, it really depends on the type of file that you're trying to send out. So if you're working with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, the text file, it could make it 50 to 90% smaller, that compression. PDF 10 to 40% smaller, but images and videos, there's very little reduction in that. Okay, so this is effective, but not as effective as it used to be, especially with images and videos. The third method, which allows you to share very large photos, would be sharing through a cloud service, and I think that's by far the most effective. So using things like OneDrive, SharePoint to upload large files to the cloud. From the cloud, you're able to share a link instead of attaching the file. And that sometimes it also allows you to collaborate easier and access the file easier as well. So that's by far the best way to do it. Big benefits to cloud file sharing. So you can always access your files anywhere on any device. So that's one of the big attractions to it. You could share large files without email size limits. Okay, so when you're sharing through cloud file storage, you're just sharing links. So you click on that, and the person clicks on that link, and they're able to access that file. At times, you may have to kind of adjust the privacy settings on your files, to make sure that the other people get it. But that's just something you have to just kind of tinker around on your side. It at times allows you to collaborate with others in real time, and also does automatic backups and things of that sort. Okay, so it's essentially for the summary of this week, I want you to really take a look at the module for keyboard shortcuts, take a look at large attachments, and get to know how to use Outlook to share large attachments, and also consider the different ways to kind of share large attachments through Outlook and email. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. You're going to notice that this week we also don't have an assignment, because essentially your assignment this week is just to wrap up that authentic assessment. Okay, so review the content for this week, get to know the content. You can ask me questions if you have any questions. But this week I really want you to focus on completing that authentic assessment and completing as many assignments as you can in this course so you could pass the course. Okay, so in order to pass the course, you have to have 70% and above. And in order for you to get that, you have to complete your assignments and just make sure that your assignments are done in a high quality manner. Okay, so please send me an email if you have any questions or if you have any technical issues. I also award points for people that are engaged in the class, and so just you asking questions helps you gain points in the class, and that'll help you get to that 70% or higher. Okay, so I think that's it for this week. Thank you very much, everyone, and very appreciative of everyone's work throughout the session. If you haven't already considered it, there's also classes available for next fall. Okay, so for fall, we already have classes published, and you can enroll for those courses as well. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. That's it for this week. Please send me an email or send questions if you have any. And I hope you have a good one, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.